And welcome back to MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us for our evening edition. Quite a bit of news has happened already today with the trade deadline set for tomorrow evening. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. We just had a trade just before we came on the air, Mark, just like you pointed out. Kikuchi is headed on the way to Houston in exchange for Bloss, the starting pitcher who was scratched from today's start. That's a pretty decent return for the Toronto Blue Jays, who they knew they were going to trade Kikuchi anyway. They didn't think they would get a great return. Bloss, to me, isn't exactly overwhelming, but it is a very nice building block for them to be able to get in return for his services. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into the MLB trade deadline. Alrighty, so the trade that we just saw anyway was Kikuchi going to Houston in exchange for Bloss. He is an older rookie, so it's a good starting pitching prospect for the Blue Jays to go ahead and plug in their rotation for the remainder of the year. I'm curious to see what happens with the rest of that rotation, most notably Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios, and Kevin Gausman. But Kikuchi was the one we knew would end up leaving. My guess is the next one to go probably would be Chris Bassett. Not because he's, a name in demand or anything like that, but because of how few starting pitchers that could make a difference are on the market. Chris Bassett hasn't been great this year, but at $18-ish million in salary, they could obviously reinvest that in free agency next year. And with the Blue Jays, this is all about their front office trying to save their job before the end of the season, before the end of next season anyway. That's why I doubt they'll move off of pieces like Bo Bichette. Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think would be a tough piece to sell, but if they are given the right offer, they might go ahead and do that one. But as far as freeing up some money in a Chris Bassett trade, that would make some sense for them to try to get some excitement onto that team heading into next year. So that's something we could watch out for the remaining pieces left there in Toronto. We saw 11 different players be moved around by the Texas Rangers today. I told you guys earlier to expect a flurry of activity out of Texas. Probably they're still going to have more trades as far as I'm concerned, but they brought up Josh Young. He's back on the active roster. He's taking the day off today. It was a planned day off for him, but they went ahead and got him onto the big league roster. That way he's available to pinch hit tonight. And for the first time this season, Marcus Semien is not leading off for the Texas Rangers. Today they gave that role to Josh Smith, so the Rangers are doing all kinds of juggling. They brought back Cody Bradford as well from the injured list. They designated Wenzel for assignment. They cut Austin Pruitt. John Gray looks like he's going to miss about a month. I would not be surprised if he ends up on the 60-day IL and is back in mid-September, probably in a bullpen role. But things are looking up if you're a Rangers fan as far as the team getting healthier. You still want to see this offense perform through 2 2/3 innings so far today. They've gotten buckus, so they really need to get things going offensively. The Cardinals aren't exactly the world's greatest pitching staff. They did get a nice boon today with Eric Fedde coming in. Hopefully he can kind of stabilize that rotation, stabilize the expected production out of that rotation, and get this team rolling in the right direction. Little squibber by Smith, and looks like Smith is going to be on with 2 outs here in the third. But it's going to be an interesting time here for the Rangers over the next 24 hours. Welcome in, Making Play. Welcome in, Sarah. Appreciate you joining us once again. As an Astros fan, you'll like him. Bloss was a good piece for them. I would say that they got more out of him than I think most Astros fans would have expected, but I still think there's more in the tank there. So the return for Kikuchi, not a bad option, especially when you consider the years of control that they're getting for a pitcher who's already had major league experience on a playoff roster. Should be a very good acquisition for the Blue Jays overall, especially when you consider it was a rental who hadn't exactly set the world on fire over the last 3 starts. Still has a lot of growing to do, exactly. Sarah, I'm loving the Cardinals pickups. I am as well. I love the addition of Tommy Pham. I love the addition of Eric Fedde. I'm absolutely stunned that all they had to give up was Tommy Edman. I mean, seriously, I was expecting multiple pieces, like I reported earlier, that I was expecting multiple pieces going from the minor leagues in the Cardinal system back over to the White Sox in exchange for Fedde and Pham. They also gave Kopech to the Dodgers, and Edman also went to the Dodgers as well. But overall, I would say the Cardinals did really well in that trade. Really like what they got in return to kind of bolster this roster. Pham is going to be a great fourth outfielder for them. Sounds like they might be willing to discuss Dylan Carlson maybe bringing in a reliever in return for him. There's been some sentiment around Kyle Finnegan over the last 24 hours in the national media. So maybe that would be a closer relief pitch option as a wild pitch here by Palante. And runner at second now, runner in scoring position with Corey Seager up. 1-1's the count there. Got the game on in the background while we discuss the MLB trade deadline. We had quite a few people with us right before we logged off earlier today. So really, if you guys want to join us for our MLB trade deadline coverage tomorrow, make sure you follow us over on X at UpsideSN. That way you'll be notified when we do go live. I am expecting quite a few people to be watching our live. So if you want to comment during our live, make sure you get that comment in there. And we do accept super chats as well. Rangers take the early 1-0 lead on the double by Corey Seager. Maybe this is just what the doctor ordered for the Rangers, getting back to a team that they've had the better of for the better part of the last 10 years now. And even though they haven't really played much, but this is a team that needs to get things going offensively. I was worried the way the first couple innings looked, even with the additions that they brought up and getting some juice back in that lineup, getting some juice back into that team, that, it still looked a little flat offensively. And so, I was wondering, with the way things had gone early on, if we would see a for sure move to add a designated hitter type like Yandy Diaz or a Brent Rooker. They're still expecting more pieces back from the injured list, most notably Evan Carter, who was transferred to the 60-day IL. I would expect him back around late August, though, at this point. But right now, I'm curious to see which direction the Rangers go as far as trying to add to this major league lineup. If they decide to go in the direction of a Yandy Diaz, I think that'd be a great boon and give them options with Nathaniel Lowe after the season. Lowe has really improved his status over the last couple of months, but you never know. Giovanni Gallegos, I know the DFA him, but they are trying to trade him too. Exactly. I think a team like the Colorado Rockies that I mentioned last night would be a great fit for Gallegos. Let him become the next Michael Kopech. Let him straighten himself out there in Colorado. Tough place to pitch, but if he's able to do it, he certainly has the talent, and hopefully good things for him in the future. But other trades that we've seen since the last time we were on the air a few hours ago. One, the Cleveland Guardians have acquired Lane Thomas from the Washington Nationals, a good get for them. I thought they needed to add at least one more bat to that lineup, really to solidify themselves as one of the favorites in the AL Central. They get that one done. I'm still not sure they're completely finished, though. They could still add one more bat, but either way, I think they'll be right there all the way to the end of the season as it stands right now. Stephen Vogt, Manager of the Year on the American League side. Another trade we saw right after we got off the air is Justin Turner was sent from the Toronto Blue Jays to the Seattle Mariners. Mariners manager Scott Service saying essentially that they're expecting Justin Turner to play quite a bit of first base, barring any other additions they make here at the trade deadline. Most notably, Yandy Diaz, Vlad Guerrero Jr., I think is the names he was alluding to there. But overall, they've done a nice job of improving that lineup over the last week or so, and they're still expecting some reinforcements, of course, in the injured J.P. Crawford and Julio Rodriguez. That lineup was absolutely abysmal. They needed to get some improvements in there. They have done so, so we'll see if they have enough to win the AL West. Let us know in the comments section what you think of the Mariners overall. Little tapper here out to short by Simeon. Ends the top of the third for the Rangers, but 1-0. They lead it going to the bottom half. Really curious to see, who ultimately gets the big surprise piece. Every season, there's always one big piece out there. If you listen to John Paul Morosi, that piece would be Tarek Skubal possibly going to the Baltimore Orioles, or a Blake Snell. Obviously, 6 teams are in on his market. Orioles are said to be one of those teams. Yankees, Padres, Mets have said to have been checked in on him as well. Cubs did a really surprising thing, bringing in Isaac Paredes when they looked like they were going to be a sell team, or at least a hold steady team heading into the deadline. Instead, they go ahead and buy. Paredes is not the typical buy type of a piece, though. He's not a rental. He's a piece they can use this year, next year, and the year after, and pretty much locks down a position they've had a revolving door at for the better part of the last 3 or 4 years since Chris Bryant left that team. So, good get for the Cubs. They had Nate Pearson they brought in as well. I'm curious to see what their next step is, though, if they move off of the contract of a Jameson Taillon for the same reasons I discussed a few minutes ago for Chris Bassett. A Rangers fan, Astros fan, Josh Smith is a big surprise. Absolutely, he is. Josh Smith really came out of nowhere. Ezekiel Duran was thought to be the better prospect coming out of that package for Joey Gallo, especially after the season he had last year. His numbers really declined in the second half, and he really was never able to capture that same magic early in the first half of this season. Josh Smith took that opportunity and ran with it, and he's been the best Rangers player so far this season offensively, and it hadn't been close. So it's nice to see him being rewarded with an opportunity to be their new leadoff hitter at least tonight. We'll see if the Rangers continue with that going forward. I love Marcus Semien in more of an RBI role. They've struggled knocking in runs, so maybe putting Semien in a role like that where he's succeeded before, thinking back to Toronto, then maybe we could see the Rangers pick up their offense just a little bit, just from the additions they've already made from their injured list and by shuffling that lineup. Your AL team, the Yankees, love the pickup. Jazz homered. Jazz is another good player that the Yankees needed to acquire. They just needed major league level talent on that roster. You look at the struggles they had offensively. They got Stanton back today as well, I believe. Things are starting to go the right direction offensively for them. I'm curious to see what they ultimately do with that bullpen, if they add another starter, or if they add another corner infielder. Those are still three need areas that they may still address between now and the MLB trade deadline tomorrow. Make sure, again, you join us tomorrow. We're going to be live 9 a.m. for about 10 hours tomorrow. So every single trade, every rumor, we're going to be breaking them down live here at the Upside. So make sure you turn on your notifications. When we do go live, we will let you guys know as well. So appreciate you guys joining us. Let's go ahead and look at some of the other moves that we have seen. The one that was kind of still being ironed out right before we went off the air earlier today was the rare three-team deal between the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the LA Dodgers. A few prospects ultimately wind up going to the Chicago White Sox. I'm still surprised that they only got that few of prospects anyway. Remains to be seen how good those prospects will ultimately turn out to be. But Michael Kopech, I thought, would have commanded a very similar package to what they already brought in. Not only did they give up him, they gave up Eric Fetty. They gave up Tommy Pham. To me, this says a lot more about the value on the market for Eric Fetty. The market for him sounds like it was just absolutely barren if that's all they were able to get in return for him. Eric Fetty, to me, is a high-quality player. I believe Baseball Trade Values has him around a $19 million field value, surplus value anyway, between now and the end of next season. He's on a cost-controlled salary for next year as well. And I think he's going to fit into the 2 or 3 spot in the Cardinals rotation and will probably take the ball in a playoff game as well. Now, there are other teams out there that have deeper rotations where I can understand their hesitation. They may not have had the ability or wanted to use him as a starter in their rotation come postseason time. But that contract for a starting pitcher, absolutely money in this day and age. And so I'm curious to see how good he can be with the Cardinals. Love the addition of Tommy Pham as well for the Cardinals. Veteran presence. We saw what he did last year for the clubhouse for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Really surprised that he had to wait as long as he did on the open market. And ultimately, he found his way to a team that he knew he would get some playing time in the White Sox, and that he knew he would be traded at the deadline to a team that would be competing for a postseason spot, and that's exactly what they got. So that's kind of the trade that we saw, and then the pieces going to the LA Dodgers. The non-closer, the best pitcher that was traded this trade deadline to me, that was not a starter or a closer, is Michael Kopech. I believe he has that level of impact on that bullpen for the Dodgers. I think they're going to use him as a multi-inning reliever. If Evan Phillips continues to falter, they can obviously move him back to the closer role if necessary. But for me, he's going to be a great arm, a great weapon out of that bullpen. And Dodgers, I think, are going to have one more starter that they're going to try to acquire as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to bring in Garrett Crochet. Market for him seems to be cooling a little bit. Yankees are said to be intensifying a trade between them and the Detroit Tigers, possibly for Jack Flaherty. If they do acquire him, rumors have it that Nestor Cortez would be the odd man out for the Yankees. Curious to see what they ultimately are able to get for Cortez, but obviously they believe Jack Flaherty to be a higher ceiling pitcher, somebody they're hoping to have a better second half than what he did last year for the Baltimore Orioles. Orioles are said to be in there as well for him if they're unable to get a deal done for Crochet or for Scoball. So curious to see how things work out there. Pierce, welcome back. Losing Gray yesterday hurt us so bad on making more moves this deadline. He would have had a decent return, I think. I think the best reason for the Rangers to have moved a guy like John Gray is just to offload the salary more than anything else. He's making, what, $13 million next year. They would have been able to save a little bit of money at this trade deadline to where they could invest that money into other assets they might want to acquire, Yandy Diaz, etc. But to me, I think they really like the stuff John Gray brings, the strikeout potential, the velocity that he brings, especially when he was utilized out of the bullpen in the postseason last year. And Carpenter hits this one to the moon, and it's a 2-run home run off of Eovaldi. 2-1, Cardinals take the lead. Congratulations, Sarah. Imagine if you're the Dodgers and not winning the World Series. I mean, it's already going to be a tough fight between them and the Phillies. I don't think they believed Philadelphia would have given them this hard of a run, but so far Philadelphia's been the best team in baseball this year. They got a little bit of a stroke of luck anyway with the injuries now to the Braves, where they don't have to necessarily compete with them on the NL side. But to me, this race all comes down to the Phillies and the Dodgers for the NL World Series, or the NL pennant. So for me right now, I believe that Phillies are just a tick better, but you got 2 more months of baseball, injuries, etc. Phillies right now are relatively healthy. Dodgers are still working their way back to getting healthier. We shall see, what the rest of the deadline holds for both of those teams. It sounds like Philadelphia might be done. They may add one more reliever, but it does sound like the Dodgers are still looking to get another piece. Dodgers just got Ahmed Rosario. Yes, it does look like that. He was on the Dodgers last year. He's played well this season for the Tampa Bay Rays. We knew they were moving him. And so a nice get for them. Kind of gives them another position player to kind of float around the infield, maybe to a corner outfield spot if necessary. This is kind of a similar move to the Tommy Edman trade here, kind of giving them some versatility here at the deadline. I'm still curious to see what ultimately happens here. Liner up the middle here. Eovaldi's getting hit a little harder this inning. After a quick first and second, looks like he's found some trouble here in the third. But for me, what I'm watching for, if I'm watching the Rangers and Cardinals game, is what happens offensively for Texas. I know the pitching is going to be there. Eovaldi's been pretty good all season. But we saw what happened in his last start, gave up a big home run, and then really buckled down to give him 7 innings, I believe, in his last start. I'm expecting another similar performance today. But welcome in, Randy. Appreciate you joining us and subscribing the other day. So thank you very much for coming back. See if there's anything else on the horizon at the moment, and then we'll do some trades here momentarily. Doesn't look like anything's happening as of yet. So let's go ahead and head over to baseball trade values and the 40-man roster for the Rangers. I want to start with them because, to me, they still have so many moves that they could make. They've already adjusted their roster quite a bit. Today they made 11 they made 11 roster moves in addition to the trade of Michael Lorenzen earlier today with Walter Pennington. Like that addition for Texas, ultimately, they were looking for a reliever, and they did get one here who's going to be on the 40-man roster, going to start at AAA as far as where he's going to start his tenure with the Texas Rangers. And I think he will be up at some point here in the next couple of months. I think Scherzer is pitching tomorrow in his hometown of St. Louis. He is. He does not have his personal catcher anymore. That's Knizner. As far as offense goes for Knizner, that's probably the biggest reason why he's no longer on the roster. And Scherzer doesn't really need a personal catcher. Never has. He calls his own game. All you need is a catcher back there who receives well and can block it fairly well. And that's something to kind of keep in mind. Not sure if that was on the backswing or what. Jonah Heim looks like he got hit from something. Waiting for the replay here. Anyway, while we wait for that replay just to see what kind of happened there, let's look at where the Rangers stand right now. They brought up Josh Young. They moved Justin Foscue to the minors. Same thing with Jonathan Ornelas. 2 moves we had expected coming in to the deadline. Now, as far as moves they still could make here, as far as the infield, I think they're pretty much set with what they've got going right now. Ezekiel Duran is up with the Major League roster. He got the start today. His bat had turned itself around a little bit in the minors. and we'll see if he continues his success that he found down there. Better habits, if you will, are mainly what they were looking for out of Ezekiel Duran. They weren't really looking for results. They were more looking for process, and Ezekiel Duran seems to have solved that issue down there. Catchers, this is one spot I think Texas would like to see better performance out of, most notably Jonah Heim. Letting Carson Kelly probably start a few more games than they were using Andrew Knizner for. Jonah Heim really has a bad habit of wearing down in the second half of seasons. Texas really rides him hard offensively, and he is a good offensive piece, but when he's playing as much as he is, catching as much as he is, as good of a catcher as he is, his offense does suffer the more he does play. Just the wear and tear on his body is starting to take a toll once again, so I'm expecting Carson Kelly to play a fair amount of games here over the next month to give Jonah Heim some rest and maybe let him play as designated hitter a fair amount in August. As far as the pitchers, of course, Cole Winn is on the 60-day IL. They're not going to obviously bring him back at the moment. Owen White, again, not bringing him back as well. Daniel Roberts, one piece they could move off of this 40-man roster if they decide to bring in another trade piece. Most notably, looking at guys like Yandy Diaz, Brent Rooker, and then, of course, their own guys. Tyler Mahle is expected to be back here within the next week. I would expect him to take John Gray's spot in that rotation right now. I think he is ready for it. I think he threw, 4 innings, 85 pitches in his last start at the AA, AAA level anyway on his rehab assignment. And he looks pretty good. I think they just need to get him up at the major league level and then use their multi-inning relievers that they have out there, like Dane Dunning, Jose Urena, and Cody Bradford in case of an emergency. That way they're not taxing Tyler Mahle too much when he first gets back. Jacob Latz could use some time off. I would expect him to at least get some time off here over the next month or two. His numbers have really struggled here, or his performance has really struggled anyway over the last month. Kind of hit that rookie wall, if you will. Jonathan Hernandez was asked a tough task yesterday, ended up giving up 5 runs, but he's been pretty good so far this season. I still think they could use an improvement over one of those two pieces in a postseason series. So if there's a closer or a reliever that they really like, that they believe could be a difference maker, they could still add one more piece there. And when the news today, of course, John Gray going on the 15-day IL, he's going to miss a month. We know that much. So right now it is, the 29th? 60 days from today would put it roughly at the end of the season if they put him on the 60-day IL to save some roster spots. Should be an interesting bet there. Garabito, who's been pretty good in his performance at the major league level, isn't necessarily a lockdown closer or reliever yet at the major league level. Right now they're needing some fresh arms after exhausting that bullpen the last couple of days. That's the primary reason why he is up at the moment. Jacob deGrom will be back again probably around the September 1st. And then I think that's pretty much it. Grant Anderson is the only other piece that could see some time at the major league level, at least this season, along with Pennington. Let's see here. First homer against Eovaldi 2 for Carp. Lorenzen got moved earlier today. Yes, he did. He got moved for Walter Pennington. Did we settle for less than what we could have gotten for Lorenzen? And if not, what can you tell me about Pennington, if anything? I don't think they settled for less with Lorenzen. You look at the market for what Eric Fedde ultimately got. I thought he was a more valuable pitcher on this market, but it seems like the market told us they value Lorenzen and Fedde very similarly. Lorenzen, though, signed a one-year deal, $3 million, I believe, before the season. He knew his job when he signed with the Rangers this offseason, that he was going to be there to kind of give this team some length in that starting staff for the first half of the season, and he very likely would be traded as the rest of the roster healed up. That has pretty much happened to a T. Now, he had a terrible start on Saturday, 2/3 of an inning, gave up 4 runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, did not look good. Really saved the bullpen, though, on Sunday by going out there and voluntarily going to the bullpen and giving 4 innings of work, only 1 earned run in that one, and really kind of saved what's left of the Rangers bullpen for this series against the Cardinals. Now, as far as the return being for Walter Pennington, 26-year-old relief pitcher in the minor leagues right now, has played 1 game at the major league level. High strikeout rate, good pitcher overall, good numbers, 2.59 ERA, I believe. But that's kind of the arm the Rangers were looking for as far as a bullpen arm that they could add to their mix. I don't think they were really looking for a Mason Miller or anybody like that. I think they were looking for more depth. He does fit on the 40-man roster, unfortunately. I think that's the one area Texas would rather have had a guy off of the 40-man so that way they could execute some roster moves a little bit better here at the deadline. But they have a plan. They really like the talent there in Pennington. Gotta love the strikeout abilities of Pennington. And overall, I like what the Rangers did there with Lorenzen, turning him into a reliever that they have multiple years of control left, and really getting something for a piece that wasn't going to be on that postseason roster come October. Dodgers designated Ryan Yarbrough for assignment to make room for roster additions. Makes sense. He's been on the periphery of that roster up and down multiple times in his career so far. Nice catch there by the right fielder in that Cardinals game. Let's check one more time at the rumors, see if anything else is popping off. Not yet. Alrighty. We mentioned that with the addition of Tommy Pham, Dylan Carlson might become expendable for the Cardinals here. Luis Garcia, the 8th inning setup guy for the Angels, I think would be a great get for the Cardinals. They are looking for one more relief pitcher, and this would be a perfect trade for them. Really like that addition if they get something like that done, or another 7th, 8th inning setup guy. One trade that's been talked about quite a bit over the last couple of days anyway is the Tarek Skubal one possibly going to the Baltimore Orioles. It's going to cost a lot. I don't think they'll be able to get somebody like Jackson Holliday, but maybe a Basayo, a Hurstead, a Beavers, maybe a couple other pieces find their way into the steal. But that would be a very good offer, I believe, that the Orioles could give for Skubal. The question is, are the Tigers, even if they get a fair offer for him, are they willing to move off of Skubal? Right now, he probably figures as their ace for the next couple of years. Could hit free agency after the 26th season. Orioles need a frontline starter, especially if they lose Corbin Burns. They have new ownership. They have a little bit more money than they usually have in the past. And just remains to be seen how much money they're really going to have with this new ownership group. If they're going to be able to retain a guy like Corbin Burns, then maybe they don't have as big of a pressing need for a guy like Skubal. But from the outside looking in, they need another frontline starting pitcher in there to really give this team the juice that they need in that starting staff to make a World Series run. We saw their deficiencies last year were in that starting rotation. They've done nothing outside of Burns to really address that. They have some issues at the back end of that bullpen with Kimbrel. There is some thought that Tanner Scott of the Marlins would be a great fit there as well. You think any chance Rocker makes it to the show at all this year, even out of the bullpen possibly? I do not. I think Kumar Rocker is probably going to finish the season at Double-A and just want to finish the year healthy. That's the goal for Rocker, not necessarily results-based. It's going to be about making sure he finishes the season healthy. If he is unable to finish the season healthy, that's a big issue for Texas. They want to make sure this arm is able to get through the season healthy, and then they'll worry about results and growing, maybe even making it to Triple-A next season. But it's all about health right now for Rocker and doing what's best for his long-term success. Rangers have a lot of faith in him. Chris Young has a lot of faith in him. Kip Fagg, the Rangers, I want to say, is it director of scouting, something along those lines. He's been with the Rangers for like 20-something years, it seems like. They really seem to like what they drafted at the time anyway in Kumar Rocker. I think they would like to see better returns on some of their starting pitchers they've drafted. But Rocker looks like a very good starting pitcher. They've gotten some really nice development down at the low levels of the minor leagues. Those are some names that you'll start to see around the offseason. Hey, that one up at the eyes that puts Duran on his knees before he takes it to the face. That one getting away from Palante. 2 on, 1 out for the Rangers. 2-1 Cardinals lead in the 4th inning. But should be a good game here tonight with the Cardinals and Rangers. We're going to do a short video tonight anyway. We're going to focus primarily on saving my voice for tomorrow. Already feeling it anyway after having this many lives with you guys. But appreciate the support that you guys have given, all the new subscribers we've gained. Not too much popping off tonight, but hopefully we see some of the bigger moves. Hopefully Tampa Bay moves a couple more pieces as well. They still seem to have a piece or two that they could trade. We focused on 4 of them earlier. One of them was not Ahmed Rosario, but he ultimately moves as well. It looks like Jack Flaherty could be close to a destination as he was scratched from his start today. But should be a great day for baseball tomorrow. So make sure you guys join us. A little bit of non-baseball related news. It looks like the Dallas Cowboys have finally agreed to terms with their wide receiver CeeDee Lamb as well. 4 years, 136 million, 34 million per season. Good deal for both, I believe. Puts him near the top of that receiver market. And the Cowboys really needed to start getting some pieces locked up long term. Most notably, Lamb, I think, is probably the biggest piece that they had to get, and then Micah Parsons would be the next one. If I'm a fan of the Rangers, that one broke right at the handle for Duran. You don't see that one often. Holding the bat like this, handle breaks right there. Right off the end of the bat. So, count stays 2-2, but for the Cowboys, they get their receiver locked up. We'll probably post a video on that one at some point in the next couple of days. Probably focus primarily our coverage on the trade deadline here over the next 24, 48 hours. So make sure you guys subscribe, follow us over on X at UpsideSN, on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. And we'll see you guys again later on tonight if there's a big trade. But we'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow, recapping all the latest from the MLB trade deadline. And hopefully we start seeing some big-time trades tomorrow afternoon. Y'all have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.